So, how are you doing today?
It's April Fool's Day, but you know, to be honest, the way things are right now, April Fool's Day just feels like any other Tuesday.
Right. A friend of mine said, "Oh, April Fool's is canceled this year."
Right.
So,
I've heard that.
can you believe though that it's been 30 years since you were 30 plus years since you were on All My Children? I didn't even know where the time goes.
Yeah, not to date either of us or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, I started All My Children in 1991, so yeah, it's a trip, and but you know what is even more of a trip is the fact that people still associate me, appreciate me, say things,
That's nice.
on the street or online. It's wow, the power of TV, the
It
power
is.
of All My Children.
Yeah. No, you're right. I don't know if your PR rep told you, but when she asked me about whether I want to interview you, I referred back to her. I said, yes, I would like to interview Brian. I'm like, oh, well, how stupid of me. Because in my brain, that's who you are, right? So
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I get it. I get it. I guess a little piece of me is still kind of Brian anyway.
Right. Well, so that actually leads really well into my next question, which was when people recognize you now, is it more for Cobra Kai, All My Children, or some other work you've done?
I would say it's definitely Cobra Kai
Mhm.
with Brian, nipping at its heels. Um, and other stuff, I don't know. I mean, I got a lot of comments after the Lisa movie
Mhm.
uh, premiered in February 1st.
2 months ago.
Um, but by far, I mean, hey, pawn shop guy, you know, which is cool considering that it's a supporting role and not in every episode or anything.
Right.
It's one episode per season, really, except for two episodes the final season. Um, the fact that I've made that kind of an impact with the role,
Oh,
uh, it's
definitely.
very it hits here.
Hmm.
It's been a lot of fun doing that show.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I have to admit that when you showed up towards the end, I was like, oh, yay, he's back. Because
Thanks.
well, I also I had interviewed oh gosh, now my brain is not working today. Sorry, I didn't get any sleep last night. Um,
Oh, your brain's working, April Fools. Yeah.
that's right. Sean Kanan, I've interviewed him a few times, and so I knew he had been on the show, but I hadn't, you know. Here's the thing, I was sick back at Christmas, and I had never watched the Karate Kid movies, let alone Cobra Kai. And I don't know why. I was around the 80s. I don't know why I didn't watch them, but I heard how good they were. So I watched all of them since I was sick and stuck, at home. And I watched all those, and then I binge watched Cobra Kai.
Oh
So,
wow.
and so I was like, when both of you showed up, I was like, oh, good, he's here. So people I
Right on.
recognize, people I like, how it is.
I appreciate that. And yeah, Sean, Sean and I have known each other a long time.
Right.
And I can't remember if we were both on Bold and the Beautiful at the same time or, because I know he had gone back and forth and back
Hmm.
and forth. And maybe he was on GH during that. I just don't remember.
Right.
But we did a movie together in 2008 or 9 called Jack Rio.
Oh, okay.
And we had that was our first time actually working together. And we had, an opportunity to have some good, heavy, dramatic stuff together. So that was cool.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I always smile when I think of Sean. He's a character.
he is. Um, it's funny in a way because I was reading your, your backstory on the different soaps and stuff, and I read that Sheila stabbed you and killed you, and Deacon, and he's back on Bold and Beautiful, and he's married to Sheila.
Oh
So
gosh.
they're a
Oh
fun
gosh.
couple. They're like the humor and the sort of the terror.
But you know what's funny is, sorry,
It's okay.
somewhere along the line, that misinformation with Bold and the Beautiful came out, and I don't know where it originated.
So she didn't stab you?
No, I
Oh, okay.
never died on that on the show.
Good to know.
Um, she set up like I had there was someone that was supposedly my friend or
Hmm.
something on the show, and she uh, killed him or tried to kill him with bees, if I remember
Oh,
right.
okay. Yeah, they did reference that within the last few years. Because
But so if at some point, unbeknownst to me, they kind of filled that information after because I came on the show and I wasn't on very long. It was
Mhm.
3 or 6 months.
Right.
But I remember in my mind, I feel like my last scenes were saying something like, I need to get out of here and get away from you. So if they added something like, and kind of a footnote referenced it, oh, like maybe
Yeah.
Sheila in a crazy moment, oh, nothing, I stabbed him, killed him, who cares? You know, that's entirely possible,
That's
but
possible. But I think it's
no,
just from, yeah, what you said the first time is just some sort of internet thing that, some fan said or something and got out of control and people just believe stuff. You could say anything you want about anything about soap operas and it will just spread and it'll be truth by the time, the next month.
wait. Now wait just a second, Suzanne. Are you suggesting, are you implying, are you trying to get the idea out there that misinformation on the internet is possible? I don't believe it. I think you're a kook.
We might have to go on Joe Rogan to discuss this.
Yeah.
No, but soap fans do seem to be, I mean, okay, a lot of people are gullible out there, and there are a lot of internet rumors, I grant you, but it seems like the soap opera ones, people just intentionally spread them, and other people are just so gullible to believe every single rumor and speculation that they read or hear. And it's just like, and if I happen to be on the Facebook group or whatever, and somebody says, it's not real, it's a rumor. And they think by when I say it's a rumor that I say it's fake. I'm like, no, we don't know what it is. It's just, it was over here. It hasn't been on any actual magazine or reliable news site.
Doesn't
I
matter.
gave up because, well, but it does matter if to me, I guess.
No, no. What I'm
I,
saying is it doesn't matter true or false. It's out
right.
there.
They'll
It's
believe it.
it must be true.
Right. Oh well, nothing I can do about it. As much as I try, it's like tilting at windmills. What are you gonna do? But getting back to the to soap opera thing, and I'll go back to Cobra Kai. But do you have any fun stories over the years about meeting soap opera fans that were particularly fun or interesting or weird?
Um, I think, hmm, I mean, there were definitely, interaction situations. I mean, listen, in the early 90s, daytime TV was infinitely larger. The audience and, the ratings and
Mhm.
everything were just so much more, people were so much more engaged because of, I mean, obviously fewer outlets, fewer options.
Right,
But daytime was huge in the early 90s, and in New York, All My Children was king.
right.
And uh, I couldn't walk 6 blocks from the studio to my apartment without either getting verbally and physically to a degree assaulted either in a negative way or a positive way, depending on how Brian behaved on the show that day.
Right.
So, you know, it went from, like New York cabbies screeching on the brakes, screeching tires, yelling out, "Yo, Brian, yeah!" to, people at a street corner like, "How dare you? How dare you treat Haley that way?" It was,
That's funny.
it was very, and it was a lot to take because I've never been um, the big attention hound.
Mhm.
I've had to go out of my way since I was a kid because wrong career choice for an introvert and
Yeah.
someone who's very set in my ways and everything. So I've had to adapt a lot, but
That seems
it
to be
was
common though. I've seen other or read about other actors who were introverts, and I just think, well, why did you why did you choose this career?
well, I think part of it really is which I've read from other actors or musicians, entertainers, the same thinking. And part of it is that need to like get out of the introvert
Right,
uh, mentality and, you know, to be able to paint a smile on and, be able to perform and tackle those fears. What's interesting is I've forever now heard that the number one fear for the majority of people is public speaking.
hmm,
That people just freeze up if they're talking to a group of people, or God forbid, in their case, an auditorium or a theater full. I have no problem with it.
that's good.
You put me in front of 50 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, it doesn't make a difference. I'm just going to live in that moment. Will I have some apprehension before and after? Sure. But once, I'm able to flip the switch
Right.
and just get out there and do it. So,
Were you able to
I
do
have,
that early in your career, or is that something you've learned over time?
I think pretty early because I wasn't super popular or anything as a kid, and I had to create the outgoing persona to feel more accepted and more popular even within my closest friend group in elementary school. I felt excluded to certain degrees. I still remember not getting invited by my best friends. I thought uh not getting invited to join them to Mardi Gras, not in New Orleans. We're
Right.
talking at UCLA campus in California. That's where Mardi Gras, happened.
Right.
But I remember being crushed by, things like that. So I kind of, and also even younger than that, I'm Italian American. My first language was Italian. My first words were Italian.
Okay.
But, I was born in the States in California. And my first words were apparently "che brutto," which means how ugly. Uh, my parents were house shopping, and one of them liked the place and the other didn't. And I woke up and out of nowhere said "che brutto" and settled the argument. But my closest friends kind of at one point turned on me and started calling me a dago
Oh,
and a wop.
oh man.
And, and I remember how how much that affected me. And I ended up going home and saying, you know what? We're not talking Italian anymore. We're in America. We're speaking English. I'm not, and I regret that so much
Yeah, I'm sure.
because, and now if I need to speak Italian, I can to a degree, but the fact that, I'm not fluent in Italian and it's because of that, it's really silly. But
No, it's not
the
silly at
point,
all. Kids can be really cruel, and a lot of us have those kind of stories. I was bullied all through school, so I know what you mean. I don't
well,
have the Italian American thing, but I was poor, and so I got picked on. Let's just say.
yeah,
But
I
we
I
all
I
grew out
get
of it,
it.
hopefully, or
That
went to therapy or
that
something.
that kind of behavior stopped though once I started training with boxing and
Ah,
taekwondo.
I was actually going to ask you that about Cobra Kai, if you had done any kind of martial arts before, or if you ever had hoped to do more of that kind of thing in the show.
I'll tell you, I wanted so badly to have something written in where, you know, Johnny finally had enough of my attitude and, said, "Hey, you know what? Just give me a little extra for, money for this or that, and I'll give you a few free lessons," and then decided to take it out on me on the mat. That would have been a lot of fun.
That would have.
Yeah, I did some training when I was younger, and for years now, I've said that if I could just find the discipline again to spend 15 minutes per day stretching my legs to get them to the point where I could put them over someone's head again, like I could younger, then I'd get back into, some serious training, but I just don't have that discipline.
Right.
I just
And
can't
it's
do it.
hard when you get older. I mean, you're 6 years younger than I am. And we lived in Hawaii, and I'd always wanted to get back to roller skating.
So you're 38.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I wanted to go back to roller skating, and we finally were living in an area which was relatively flat, and I had some roller skates. But what I didn't realize is if you get older and you don't exercise all the time, you lose all the muscles in your legs. I couldn't even stand up on the roller skates.
Your legs were doing like this.
Well, we lived across the street from a park, and my husband, I stupidly put the roller skates on in our apartment and went down in the elevator, holding on to my husband the whole time, and then across the street, and then he sort of walked around the little, it was a very small park, so and I kept half falling and he'd hold me up. And I'm like, well, what can I do? And I went to the gym. I couldn't even do the cross train. What was that thing with where you have your legs are going this way and your hands are going this way? So
Falling.
yeah, that too. But but it all relies on your, being able to do that. And I couldn't do that. So I asked the trainer there, he goes, well, you could put you put weights on your legs and then do leg lifts. And
Right.
I didn't do it. And I gave away the roller skates. So, you know,
Yeah, the the extent of my stretching right now is in the shower, there's kind of a bench seat,
mm,
and I will put my foot out on that and then lean up against the wall to stretch the hammy. But I
sure.
mean, I'm doing like a count of 12, 14 per leg instead of 5 minutes and making it really hurt.
Right.
But hey, you never know. Maybe this coming birthday in May, I'll make a resolution to actually spend the next year 10 minutes a day, stretch the crap out of my hammies and see if I can get into that again. But
Well, you look like you exercise and keep in shape. So you're doing better than I am.
well, thanks. Thanks. And you know what? I wish you hadn't just said that because I'm starting to get warm and I was about to take off the
Oh,
flannel. But now if I do
no.
that, it'll seem as if,
I won't
you
look.
know, as if I'm sitting there saying, well, yeah, thanks, Suzanne. But I'm
No,
not doing that. I'm
there's
just starting to
that's
get a
okay.
little warm.
That's okay. There's a reason you don't see me from the neck down.
That's funny.
So, do you still I want to tell you I interviewed Matt Servito, who played your brother Trask in 2013. Uh,
Really?
yeah, and it was for he did this short thing on what's it called? Adult Swim called Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. Something I think that's the title of it.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I got to interview he and the other two guys. This was before we did the Zoom thing, so it was audio, but I still have it on there. It was hilarious. They were all three just so funny, and he was embarrassed, but in a funny way when I told him that he was the main one I wanted to talk to because of his time on All My Children and One Life to Live, and they were giving him the business, but it was just hilarious. Do you ever talk to him?
No, I don't. I think at some point I tried sending him a direct message or whatever it's
Mhm.
called through Instagram or
Mhm.
whatnot. Um, because we never met. He was already gone on All My Children when I popped up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. We were brothers and we referred to, was it Trask, his name? His
Trask,
name was
yeah.
Trask.
So it was the
We were
previous actor who played Brian who met with him, or the one
he
after?
may have he may
Um,
have I don't know how long the previous actor was on.
I
I
think
know
a
that they had
year.
been trying to recast for like 3 months
Mhm,
when they finally found me,
mhm.
but so I don't know how long Gregory was on the show. I hadn't. My mom, rest her, she used to kick me out of the TV room when I was a kid,
Oh,
so,
really?
because all my children, General Hospital, One Life to Live, Matthew, get out! Time for my soap operas. Heavy Italian accent, my mom.
It's funny.
Get out, Matthew! Matteo, out! And it was, just such a joy for her and for me when I was on the show, and
Oh,
it
that's
was
nice.
her jam. But I had never seen the show, so I don't know. Uh, Again, I don't know how long Trask was on it. I don't know how long Gregory had been playing Brian before they started trying to recast him. But I do know that Matt Servito is a dynamite actor, and he's had so many cool roles that I really have enjoyed him on. Uh, uh, I mean, he had a good recurring role on Sopranos.
Right.
There's a show that I like on Max, and now I can't remember uh, the name of it. Banshee.
Oh, right,
He
yeah.
has he has
Yeah,
a
he
good
was on
role.
that when I interviewed him. We talked about
Oh,
that.
okay. But I would love to meet him. I'd love to, work with him. He's just a dynamite actor. And
The two of you look like you're related. That's what's funny about it, that you never met, but you look like you're related. More
I'll
back
take
then
it.
than now, but
You're right. I have no idea what he looked like back
that's
then.
funny. That's funny.
But yeah, I would love to, excuse me. I'd love to, talk with the guy and, pick his brain a little bit about his days on All My Children.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Well, do
But
you
even
still?
more so, I'd love to see, with all my children being gone, I actually on social media asked a question just to see, because General Hospital is kind of not famous, but known for incorporating certain things, all my children,
Mhm.
into Port Charles. Even recently, which, really gave me the idea because a good friend of mine, James Patrick Stewart,
Mhm.
plays the role that originally I had been cast in, Valentine Cassadine.
Right. I was really surprised about that because it seemed like I read for like years in Soap Opera Digest that you were going to come on and play Valentine, and then it didn't happen, and then he came on later, and I was like, what happened there?
In a nutshell, I'll try to make it quick for you. I know you're probably have other interviews to do and all that. But
Oh, I'm good.
um, in a nutshell, I was offered the role. We did some press. I did my, on the way to, my first day of shooting, we did the scenes at the end of the day because everything was kind of supposed to stay under the wraps and all
Hmm.
that. And I believe it was the next day, I got the call saying, don't know how to tell you this, but James Franco, we've been talking to him for a while, and he called last night and said he wants to do the show, and we can't have two bad guys starting at the same time.
Really?
So we're
I
we're
didn't know
going to
that
have
was
to
a rule.
push.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
going to have to push the storyline.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, are you kidding me?" I mean, I got Francoed, and and
Well, at
it
least it
was
was
kind of,
somebody very talented that pushed you out.
yeah, but I mean, I was a little crushed,
Yeah, I bet.
because since we had been, kind of doing a dance
Mhm.
since the uh, Soap Opera Digest Award, when I won the Soap Opera Digest Award in '93, I guess, and got nominated for the Emmy. We'd kind of been doing the dance, like someday there'll be the right thing. And this was the right thing in my
Yeah.
mind. But to my regret, I didn't really handle it all that well. You know, it would have been enough to just say, "Hey, it didn't work out. I got Francoed, whatever." But and when I say Francoed, think I'm substituting for a different
Yeah.
word that
Yeah.
starts with F. But
I got
it
it.
was really, it was a disappointment because it was really kind of like in my mind something that had been building up for, you know, 15 years or something like that, or 20 years. And, I made some comments in the press that, I regret making. And, I made my apologies and my amends after,
Mhm.
after that down the road a little while back. Um, but anyway, so James Patrick plays Valentine, and he does a dynamite job in that. I
Yes, he
mean,
does.
completely different from the way I would have played it. And I don't play the piano like he does.
Yeah.
And I remember I watched one day to see what he was doing with the role because I wanted to know.
Right.
And I saw him sitting at a piano, like serenading a lady.
Oh, it was
And
probably the nurse's ball because he did that on their nurse's ball.
don't know,
Yeah.
don't know, but
Did you wear it? Was he dressed up?
he may have been. I was, when I'm watching someone,
Yeah.
I'm really,
Oh, your
where
tunnel
I'm
vision
zooming
thing.
in here,
Yeah.
and that's my focal point. He could have been wearing, a rubber ducky outfit. I wouldn't have known. I mean, I may have noticed that, but he was sitting there up and down the
Yeah.
keyboards, just
So
and singing and la, la,
did
la, la, la.
did
And I was
he
like,
did the
okay,
two of you play together in All My Children? Was he Will Cortland while you were Brian? Okay.
yes,
I wasn't
yes.
sure.
That's really, I mean, we became close friends
Yeah.
back then, and have maintained that relationship for, through the years. I'm grateful for that. But anyway, I got on that point because I saw something about GH, playing the AMC thing again. Valentine is like apparently in a storyline, leaving the country or going to travel abroad or something. And he has a passport made with a fake name. And if you zoom in, the name on that passport
Will
Will
Cortland. Yeah, I saw
Courtland.
that.
So there was that, and less recently, Walt Willey, who plays
Yes,
Jackson Montgomery, migrated from Pine
right.
Valley
Yeah, I
to
interviewed
Port
him when he
Charles.
was doing that. So he was
Um,
glad to be.
and Walt Willey, what a character that guy is.
Yeah.
But
But you know what? He's one of the few actors. There's only two actors I've ever interviewed uh, that actually talk to me on the phone and like their personal phone. I'm not slamming all the others because mostly it's on Zoom now anyway. But he called me to talk to me about doing the interview, and he said, "Call me if you have any questions." And only he and Christophe St. John, way back when, who also called me on his personal phone and said, "Call me back if you have any questions." It just feels like how nice, because most people, they don't even remember talking to me. You know what I mean? So anyway,
all right, well, I'll make sure you have my phone
oh no,
number.
I wasn't saying anything. It was
Yeah,
just
you were.
no, no, no. I followed you on Instagram for a long time, so I know you're nice
Okay,
too. But
but
so do you hang around?
um,
Do you still talk to anyone else or hang around with anyone else from soaps?
mm, Ricky Paul Golden and
Oh,
I, we've been friends a long time. Um, I'm pretty much out of touch with Kelly and Mark. Um, I mean, I like or comment on, social media stuff, but I mean, they're a conglomerate now. I
right.
mean,
Well, they tried to
and
bring
they
All My
have.
Children back. Did you see that? They tried to bring it back a couple years ago as a primetime show called Pine Valley or something. Didn't work.
I remember reading something about the idea, and who knows if that'll still happen.
I think it's pretty much
Um,
dead in the water at this point, but
I think with, the advent, the premiere of this new Beyond the Gates
Mhm.
show, is if it continues to perform fairly well, then I think it may open the door to more shows. Who knows? Maybe now it's the perfect number. Who knows?
Yeah,
Um, and that would be, a fun show to work on to a degree, just because it's here in Atlanta.
right.
Um, but I'm, I don't know if I'm the right fit for that show. It's very campy. I mean, I was curious to see, what the hubbub was about, and it's so,
Over the top.
it's like the back to like the 70s style soap where, it's not like, uh, would you say? Now
Over
it's
the
like,
top.
what did you say?
Oh,
You
right.
know what I mean?
Right, right. Well, I think
It is,
I'm wondering whether they do that because a lot
and
of
they celebrate it,
American actors do or people watch the Tyler Perry soap operas, and those are a little bit like that. And they maybe figured if they do that, then it'll, well,
maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, they celebrate that, and, they talk about, hey, ready to get really soapy. And, it's kind of like a celebration of the soap genre
Mhm.
in its, original,
Mhm.
you know,
Well, definitely
form.
the way it was in the 80s, if nothing else, with the big hair and the all the glitz and
Yeah.
glamour and slapping and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I had auditioned for a role on the show
oh,
that I thought, this is a no-brainer. I mean, my daytime background, I live here,
right.
but I didn't know that they were looking for such a campy, soapy vibe, you know.
Right. You
And
played it more
the
straight.
guy who plays the role, we couldn't be less alike. Um, very kind of.
Is it the John Lindstrom role?
No,
Oh,
no. He's kind of like, when I saw him, because I was paying attention, he's kind of like a Joe Pesci wannabe,
oh,
you know, working in the law firm. Character's name was Mike when I read for it. I don't know if that's the character name now, but just watching that, I've watched two episodes in total now.
Mhm.
And, I had wanted to see specifically what's this show about.
Mhm.
And then I watched another episode to see if I'd see, the character that I had read for it. And when I
Right.
saw this guy, I was like, well, no wonder it wasn't me. You know?
Yeah.
But the reason I mentioned the GH crossovers from All My Children is because I did a little exploratory video on TikTok and Instagram and meet what's the thing with the Facebook?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the hardest name in the world to remember,
That's
right?
okay.
Um, and asking, for those of you, the Brian Bodine fans, now that you don't have All My Children, would you watch if Brian Bodine showed up in Port Charles on General Hospital? And not one person had something negative to say. I was stunned.
That's
I was
nice.
expecting a lot of, typical internet hate sheep
Mhm.
sitting there saying, "Oh no, who gives a crap?" and blah blah blah. But
That is rare.
instead, I was blown away.
That's good.
Especially on TikTok,
Yeah.
like yes, please, and da da. Get there, get there. Brian.
Wow.
So much
That's nice.
positive stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like
I think the problem with this is just my observation. Obviously, I'm not an actor or directly involved with the shows, but my impression is that both GH and Days of Our Lives have huge casts and they can't afford them all. And so they regularly rotate people in and out, especially Days of Our Lives, but even GH does this. And so it's really hard to get a role on there that's not just for like a couple days, if you're not one of the
right,
top ones that they already love. And it annoys the fans because it's like, where did my favorites go? And they get all mad, and then 6 months later they bring them back and get rid of someone else's favorites. But I think it's because it's the budget now that they pay the actors so much. There's very few actual contract actors, and everyone else is recurring or they have short
right.
contracts. So
Well, what made me, really latch on to the idea that it's something that could perhaps
yeah,
work is the fact that, especially, in my situation where so many years now, it feels like we've been trying to reinvent the wheel and figure out the right character at the right time
right.
and the right situation. Well, I'm an ABC character, that was pretty, gratefully, uh, pretty darn popular. And that's an easy thing to do. Just like Jackson Montgomery, came
Yeah,
across from All My Children, bring Brian Bodine, just, figure out the right situation. Now you don't have to figure out the right character.
that's
Now it's
true.
just a matter of, okay, we already have the built-in, viewership
Yeah,
and not just from All My Children, but the worldwide viewership of Cobra Kai
yeah,
is a lot larger than the All My Children fan base.
yeah.
So,
I think it's been weird on GH because okay, they brought Walt Willie over as Jack, but they previously brought Michael E. Knight over, not as Tad, but as a lawyer with a Southern accent. And that was before Walt Willie came over. So they did a little wink wink, but they couldn't really have them both from Pine Valley.
right,
And then they've had they recently had the actress who played Babe on All My Children Later replace another character that was on General Hospital. So it gets a little confusing. But it's like they did that before though, because the actress who just left Kelly Monaco, she had been on Port Charles as Livy, Kevin's daughter. Kevin's still on there. He's on both that and the other one. And then when she joined as Sam on General Hospital, they were no longer father and daughter, but then we all saw it that way for a long time, So it's weird the way they do those things. As a fan, it
Well,
drives me nuts. But
I mean, you're also talking about a medium in which, like in my case, when I joined All My Children, literally from one day to the next, you have a different actor playing the same role.
yeah,
Um, and that's, just, you know, the role of Brian Bodine will now be played by Matt Borlenghi.
right, right.
And there I am on screen. So I mean that's not too rare. And also, listen, with the reduction in the number of shows, I mean, you're going to have actors that
Yeah,
are known for one thing or another
yeah,
thing, coming over to the few shows that remain. Uh, Personally, I just think that it would be a lot easier, to bring a character that people already have, you know, pretty deep feelings for, bring that character to the new place.
right. And since it's
Well,
been 30 something years, we don't know what Brian's been up to. He could be a bad guy. Who knows?
listen, the last time you saw Brian Bodine, he was brought into a love triangle, which was 3 years after I left the show.
Mhm.
Uh, they brought me back to create a love triangle with Haley and Mateo, and I came back as a successful TV producer who's living in Los Angeles now. And gone were the flannel shirts and ripped jeans, and now I was in crisp shirts. Say that 6 times quickly. Now I was in crisp shirts with open collars and nice
Yeah.
suits, and trying to woo Haley away with success and money, only to leave brokenhearted and empty-handed. So uh, he could be, he could still be that, or he could just be on a soul-searching mission, having lost everything and finding himself in Port Charles. Why? Who knows?
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
not Port Charles is not that far from Pine Valley. They've said that. So,
Oh yeah,
well, they're both in New York,
yes,
right? And
yeah. Maybe he took a wrong turn.
you know,
He meant to go back to Pine Valley from LA and took a wrong turn
his
on a
flight
cross
got
country road
redirected
trip.
or something. Yeah. So
Who knows?
enough of the soaps. Uh, I don't want to take up all your whole day. What time is it? Okay, we have a few minutes, right, to talk about Cobra Kai.
I'm good. I'm good. And,
Okay.
a couple other things that I have going on.
Yes, I have that on here too. So you mostly worked with Billy Zabka, right, on Cobra Kai?
Correct. Awesome guy.
And he seems like
Awesome
he's a
guy.
really nice guy off screen from the
Such
off
a,
screen.
such a great spirit about that guy, and, so open to playing with the characters and, having fun because, you know, as written, my guy, I didn't even see myself in the role. He was not this stereotypical pawn shop guy. And once I said, I'm going for this, but I'm making this completely mine, and I'm going to say things in a way that I know no one else is going to say them. Uh, Little did I know that, being that adamant about being different was going to be what was the start of a 6 season recurring character.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So were you a fan of the Karate Kid movies back when they first came out in the 80s? Yeah.
Daniel San, wax on, wax off. Oh yeah. Yeah,
That's
I
good.
really enjoyed it. And back then I just wanted to beat the crap out of Johnny. In real life, I just wanted to beat the crap out of him, seeing the way he was acting.
Yeah.
And it really was. I mean, Daniel San was, the younger generation's Rocky.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, I was a big fan.
that's good. That's good. And so
When this audition came up, and they told me what it was, I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
yeah. Well, that's good. And can you tell us whether what do you think you'll be in any of the movies that they do? I mean, I know there's one coming out. and they might do more if that one's successful. Are you allowed to tell us?
Listen, I'm a humble and grateful guy for, the role I played for Cobra Kai. I don't see why they would ever need me in any of the movies. I mean, why? Why would they
Yeah.
need me? If they
Maybe he
came to
branched
me,
out his pawn shops into other parts of the world and they happen to run into him in whatever country they're in.
sure, in Nagasaki. But I mean, of course, if they came to me and said, we're doing another movie and we thought it might be fun, I'd be like, when?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I'll be
were
there.
very good about that. That's one of the best things about the show, I thought, was the way they brought back almost every possible character and actor that they could, mining all the movies
Yeah,
repeatedly. And since I had just seen them, I was like, oh wow, is that the same person? And I would go to IMDb and look them up. Oh my gosh, that's the same person.
yeah.
I just love that. And I'm sure that other people who saw it way back when were, is that the person?
And,
But it was
and
just
not
it was fun.
not only are they smart that way, but I mean they're really passionate about it because, the big three, we call them John, Hayden, and Josh. Uh, they were true Karate Kid fans, and
They'd
to
have to be.
make this happen and flip it on its head and everything with a Johnny and Daniel-san
Mhm.
positions in life was genius. But as far as their big heartedness, I mean, look, when you ask if I would be involved in this or that, I I thought after the first episode of the final season, I figured, okay, now they got me and and Ralph and Billy on set together, and finally, I've been wondering about that for so long. Am I ever going to do anything with Ralph Macchio? Um, they made that happen, and I figured that was it. I'm done. The fact that they went to the extent that they did to include me in the series finale, because they didn't need me. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to rent a bar, restaurant. They didn't have to hire 90 odd, background actors. They didn't have to do that whole splinter off shooting to do that, to have me and the actor who owns like the mini mart or whatever it is, the grocery next door to the dojo and the pawn shop. They didn't have to have us there. They didn't need us. The series would have ended just fine without us, in my mind.
Right.
And the fact that they did that, and I told them, I told John that day on set, I said, you guys didn't need us. And he said, yes, we did. Yes, we did. We couldn't have ended the show without, seeing you again.
That's so nice.
And that was just that really hit deep. And, I mean, if whatever else is next with those guys, if they were to call me up and say, we have this idea, and I just be like, I don't even need to hear it. When
Yeah.
do you need me?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think they did it for you, but they also did it for the fans because it keeps you watching when you see people from previous episodes, previous movies.
Yeah,
And to see you again, I mean, partly it's because I like you from all my children, but also it's like, oh, he's back again. That's so great because it's part of you're part of the show, you know. They wanted to put as many people in there as they could, like all of the other Cobra Kai, the original Cobra Kai guys that hung out with Johnny, you know,
right. Yeah,
and as many of them as they could bring back whenever they could, they're great about that. And it makes it
yeah.
fun to watch.
Very smart, and very true to their commitment to, honor actors and characters and all that.
Okay, so you have some other projects coming out. Can you tell us about them?
I just did it's kind of started as a passion project because the writer of it wrote a movie I did not too long ago called 90 Days Past Due. but he wrote this TV pilot, a presentation pilot called Daddy's Place. And I don't know if you remember, I figure you do, but because so many people do, Big Daddy Kane was a big rapper
Oh yeah, the name's
and
familiar.
in the 80s and 90s. And this is his first foray into scripted television. And I play his best friend.
Oh,
And he is divorced with a couple of teenagers, an ex-wife who he still has a good relationship with, and he's trying to navigate life, building a new career, but he still has his best friend who was with him during all the heyday and all that.
nice.
Uh,
Then a movie
and
or a TV series?
I'm sorry,
Is it a movie or a TV series?
it's a pilot for
Pilot
a
for
new
TV.
series.
Okay.
And the director of it, Terry J. Vaughn, the last pilot that she made and directed and pitched. Well, that's a new series now coming up on Netflix
Yeah,
with Tyler Perry Productions.
great.
And I know that, they're almost done putting this together. Big Daddy Kane is doing the music for it. I heard the first version of the theme song, like the opening credits theme song, and it was really cool and really timely, and it's a really funny show with a good bit of heart to it. And my character, they gave me so much free reign to say over the top stuff that just improvised stuff that worked, but not for the not adding lines for the sake of adding lines,
Right.
adding specific lines that would really kind of help build why these guys, when Big Daddy Kane's not performing anymore, and I was basically just kind of always his number one on the road and everything. Why would they still be friends when those days are pretty much gone? So it had to be about the personality, and it had to be about the kind of things that they can say to each other, that and do say to each other that would justify, when in reality, now that I'm not like on the road with him and all that, I'm a garbage man. I'm riding around on a garbage truck
Oh wow.
every day. So if Big Daddy's in a super fancy, nice house, and I'm riding on a garbage truck to make a living and still single, you know, what is that relationship about? So I need to find things, things I say that are, so outlandish and yet so funny and really give you an idea of, okay, I get it now. Why they are still best friends,
Right.
that, they can say these things to each other. Who else, would they have in their life that they could, say these kind of things to each other? Like, using, stopping in to steal some food for lunch and use his crapper while I'm there, you know, saying
That sounds good.
certain saying certain things coming out of the bathroom that are so like, wait, what did he just say about his experience in the bathroom? Okay, now I get why these guys are still so tight, because they can say that kind of stuff to each other. So, they gave me, room to play with the dialogue and make Big Daddy Kane, you know, laugh or have like a oh my God moment. Here he goes again.
Cool.
So
Well, if it becomes a series, you let us know so we can talk about it.
100% fingers are crossed on that, because they're almost finished with the final version of that presentation pilot and ready to pitch it. And fingers are crossed, because I will be a series regular on the show. And it is a fun, good show. And hey, BDK, he should have his own show. I mean, he's got his built-in audience. I've got my built-in audience.
Yeah.
Terry has her built-in audience. You know, high hopes, high hopes.
I get my
And
fingers crossed for you.
thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. And there was another pilot that I did that still hasn't been shopped yet, um, called Townsend, and another one called Letters to Addie. But I know, when there's something more to talk about either of those, I will get back with you,
Great.
as well as a series that I created, a drama series that, we're looking to, film and then shop. And that's called ATF, which is based on a friend of mine's real life 25 years working undercover
Mm.
in the ATF.
Yeah, I read
But
about that. That sounded really good. We've got so many shows like that, but not exactly like that. That would be interesting.
it is really interesting. And, the way I see it, it's a much grittier show. The CSI shows, I mean, there's a lot of lip gloss and perfect hair.
Yeah.
And this is definitely more like The Shield. I don't know if you remember the Michael
Yeah, I
Chiklis
remember that
show,
one. Yeah.
The Shield.
Not my kind of show, but I know what it is. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a lot more gritty.
Right.
And that's what ATF is. I mean, the ATF, they deal with the worst of the worst
Mm.
criminals, and they deal with anything involving guns, explosives, anything like that. So every other law enforcement agency turns to the ATF for guidance. So,
Yeah.
it's a lot more gritty.
You got
And
to get that one done before they completely get rid of another federal agency.
you know,
There may not
again,
be an ATF anymore.
one of these, just one of those things that you hear and it's like, what?
Yeah. And
How is that going to help America?
now it's
But
just going to put money in certain people's uh,
correct,
pockets. Just
correct.
have to.
Privatize everything you can.
That's right.
But
Oh, crazy. We all
you
saw
know,
how that worked so well with the post office.
yeah, listen, uh,
Mm.
God bless everyone.
Yes.
Serenity now.
That's right. You just have
I'm
to
going back to
laugh,
George.
laugh,
I'm
or
going
go
back to the
drink or
Costanza
something,
theory.
right?
You
What
know,
else can you do? Well, thank you for talking
Mr.
to me for so long. I really appreciate it, taking up your day and everything.
Hey, I appreciate meeting you, Suzanne, and officially.
Yeah.
And I'm a humble and grateful actor, and hope anyone who might watch this appreciates the time we put into it and all the time we've spent in our careers leading up to this moment, building on what we have to be able to be sitting here opposite each other. Um, thank you all.
Well, thank you. And I do have to say that, when you first started on My Children, you were a good actor, but you were mostly a pretty face, which is what they wanted on soaps back then was, the pretty boys. And you have turned into a much better actor, and you're still pretty.
Well, thank you. I,
All
I,
right.
I appreciate that. I did not see myself as the soap type when I
Really?
joined the show,
Wow.
Everyone's like, what's his name? Ridge on Bold and the Beautiful. Everyone seemed to have those perfect jaws and everything. So I felt very much like an outsider,
Oh,
but
but you were still so young that you were like, little
I was cute.
cheek. Yeah. And
I
the
was
guy that followed you, who was also named Brian, wait, no, his real name was Brian, and he was playing Brian. That's confusing. But anyway,
Yeah,
he,
Brian Austin Green. They
yeah,
had to do an
no,
emergency
Brian
recast.
Lane Green, not
What?
Brian
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Austin.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The
I
other guy
just
was,
called him Brian.
yeah. And he
But
was really,
they had to do an emergency recast because they weren't expecting me to leave the show.
oh, okay.
And I was not prepared to stay much longer, which is why Kelly and Mark owe everything, their whole conglomerate They owe me a giant thank you because if I hadn't quit, they would have never met and
Hey,
they wouldn't be who and what they are now.
sounds good to
So you're
me. They owe you.
welcome again. I like to say you're welcome in case it ever, crosses their computer or whatnot. But I'm very happy for all their success.
I was just gonna say that Brian Lane Green was very cute, but he was not as good an actor as you are, as you were.
Well, thank you. He was a ginger, if I remember, wasn't he? Red
I
hair?
don't remember. I think they dyed it dark to match yours, so
Oh, maybe,
maybe off
maybe.
camera he was a ginger. All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much, and I'll let you go on with the rest of your day now.
And you, Suzanne, have a peaceful one.